That seems to go on for a while, but there was a chorus there that I wanted to get to, and I was having a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie to you. Hey folks, how you doing? Nick Jennison. It is the Monday Guitar Show. It's Monday. There are guitars. There is a show. Monday Guitar Show. Hey, welcome on board. If you are just joining us for the first time, hi, great to have you. We do this every Monday. We talk about guitars, hang out and talk about the guitars. Easy for me to say, although apparently not. If you're one of our returning streamers, it's great to have you back. We're hanging out, we're talking about the guitars. We got a guitar, we got a hang, we can talk. Now, today we're discussing scales, and this is not going to be your usual scale lesson, where we talk about here is the shape for the E Lydian mode, etc., etc. This is going to be part of a 4-part series, and our objective over the course of this series is to get you from scale shape to application as quickly and as effectively as we possibly can. And we reckon we can do this over the course of 4 streams. So wish us luck. I think we'll be okay. I think if you've tuned in for a while, you'll know that we usually do pretty well with this stuff. Now, before we go any further, a quick word on today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is, of course, our usual sponsors. These streams are brought to you by Lick Library and GuitarInteractiveMagazine.com. If you want lessons, go to licklibrary.com, where you will find an absolute wealth of guitar lessons beyond your wildest dreams. More lessons than you can possibly shake a pointy guitar-shaped stick at, proverbially so. Now, we also have some lessons that are focused on the subject of today's streams and the subject of this month's streams, which is scale learning, applications of scales. The first one I'm going to point you to is the one that is linked down below in the description. It is Levi Clay's Guitar Fit, which is essentially a guitar workout series that helps you to get your guitar playing in shape, and it covers, among other things, learning scales. I also want to highlight my own course, which is Guitar Essentials Volume 1, which is on fretboard visualization. That's also available on licklibrary.com, but also we've recently dropped the 2nd edition of Guitar Essentials, and this one is on picking technique. So if you want to get your picking together, Guitar Essentials Volume 2 is out now, all available on licklibrary.com. With regards to Guitar Interactive Magazine, go to guitarinteractivemagazine.com, where you'll find reviews, news, interviews, gear, all that good guitar magazine-y stuff, which unfortunately you won't find in print anymore because all the print guitar magazines are going the way of the dodo, but us digital mags, we are still going strong. So if you want to read it for free, I will say, for free. It's always been free. It will always remain free. Go to guitarinteractivemagazine.com or just go on the website, check out a bunch of articles. We'll also be taking a look in the forthcoming issue at this beautiful looking PRS Miles Kennedy signature, but I'm not going to tell you much more about this one. It's not a new guitar. It's been out for a little while, but we're looking to get our hands on it. It's a real beaut, and I'm really enjoying playing it for you guys today. Now, enough about that. Let's say hello to our streamers in the comments, and then we'll get into the meat of today's lesson. First things first, let's see who's in. We're going to say first of all hello to PJ, who was the first in the house. Says, evening Nick and all, really looking forward to this. I think we're getting a little bit of an echo on the line there, James. Is that me coming through your headphones, or is that something coming through that you can hear? It's coming through James's Mac, I think, but that's okay. James is handling the audio over there. Everybody say hi to James, by the way. Give James some love in the comments. Says, good evening, Nick. Really looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this too. Marcin is in the house. Says, great topic, Nick. It's going to be a great stream. Fingers crossed, man. We'll see. Who else do we have? Response Audio is in the house. Always in with the good insights. Lovely to have you on board. Fall Cornish is tuning in and has been learning still of the night the proper way, thanks to Ben Eller. I totally agree. John Sykes, man, what a player. Like, he is the man. I'm a huge John Sykes fan. We've talked at length about the John Sykes vibrato, among other things, but there is way more to Sykes's thing than just the vibrato, right? It's a majestic and wonderful thing. So we love ourselves some John Sykes, and Ben as well. Love me some Ben Aller. Great content, and seems like a nice guy too. Who else do we have? Fog Hornish says, always reminds me of Led Zeppelin, especially the vocal. For sure. There's a lot of Zeppelin going on there, a lot of Plant going on in Coverdale's Delivery. I mean, we already knew that. There's nothing, nothing new under the sun there. But yeah, man, like all these bands, they walk in the, what's the word? They walk in the Led Zeppelin I guess, the Led Zeppelin mold, let's say. So who else do we have? Let's say some more hellos. Folk Honich is also in. Timothy Appling is in the house, says, "Hi Nick and fellow guitarists around the globe. Glad we're back in sync on the time." Yeah, that's been weird, hasn't it, man? Like, you know, it's all these time zone changes. I'm still getting used to the idea of it getting dark around 4 o'clock now. It's not pleasant, but, you know, Christmas is coming, and that's all right. Sacred Godslayer is in the house. Helmut Strap is here. Looking forward to this one. Being entirely self-taught, I know the minor pentatonic and the 3-fret major move. How on earth have I managed? Well, you know what it is? You're in good company, man, because there are lots of guitar players who've built careers over the minor pentatonic and the 3-fret major move, and I don't think it's anything to be concerned about, dude. I think there's lots of players who are doing that stuff exceptionally well. So I don't think you need to worry about it, but we're going to get you a bit further towards full-scale mastery today, let's say. Mike Seedoff is here. Crankatom is tuning in. Deadman Doogie Van Dugerson is tuning in. It's almost sweater time in Arizona. I don't believe there is such a thing. Surely, sweaters in Arizona? Heresy. Our friend Citizen741X is tuning in. Hope we're all good. I am indeed good. Pretty tired, but I'm good, man. I'm happy to be here. Ergahog is tuning in. Franz is in the house. Jaden Barter, Jada Barter, my mistake, is tuning in. I believe a first-time commenter on this stream. It's great to have you, man. Thanks for coming and joining us. Our friend Brian Brunner, I believe also might be first-time commenter unless I'm mistaken. Great to have you. Paco Jastorius, with the compliments. That is really kind of you, man. Thank you so much. Block 18 is here. Philo is here. Mike Seedoff is tuning in, says, I love this. I look forward to every Monday, no matter what the lesson/topic. Just want to listen to Nick Jam. Well, that's kind of you, man. Thank you very much, right? We love a bit of that. Timothy Appling and a few folks are asking about the axe we're playing today. It's the PRS Miles Kennedy signature. Perfect sound. We like a bit of that. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Connor is in the house. We met Connor at the Birmingham Guitar Show. It was a lovely lad. Great player as well, let me tell you. Paco Jastorius says, leave your DNA on the like button. Yeah, please do. Can confirm. Who else do we have? Let's see what else we have in the house. We're just going to skip over a few of these real quick, but this is a point that I really want to get to. Hello Nick, says Mal Riley, eager to hear about how to remember scales without overanalyzing. Well, that's a topic for today. Memorize the cage patterns and moving them around to play over other modes. It gets confusing just moving through the patterns. Yes, indeed it does, right? Indeed it does, so we're not going to do any of that, right? We're going to do some other stuff today, but that's a great comment. I'm going to star it up. We're going to come back to that. Now, who else do we have? Very quickly, let's see now. Darby is tuning in. Last comment we'll take, and then we'll get onto the meat of the lesson. It says, Darby here, good evening. Darby here, and good evening all. Raring to go after seeing David Gilmour at the Royal Albert Hall. Man, superb. Our editor-in-chief, Jonathan Graham, was there because he goes to all the best gigs, right? So he was there. Apparently it was tremendous. Anyway, let's get into today's session. How do you remember scales like a pro? And we're actually going to use our friend, I'm going to bring this comment back up, Mal Riley as our jumping off point here. Oh, sorry, not Mal Riley. We're going to come back to you. Who else do we have? There was another comment about this that I forgot to star up. I'm just going to bring it back up because we're going to use this as our jumping off point. Helmut Strap, that's who it was. I knew it was Helmut Strap. With the minor pentatonic and the 3-fret to major move. First of all, let's actually establish what that is. In case, I haven't said hello to Kim. We missed Kim. Kim's in the house. Where's Kim? I was just on the phone to Kim and I've missed over him. There's our friend Kim. Kim is the big boss, in case anybody who's not familiar doesn't know, tuning in from somewhere sunny, which is not here, let me tell you. It's not very sunny here at all. Kim is off in sunnier climes. Anyway, just going to quickly turn the delay off on this because it's going to get a little bit annoying. We've been shooting some reviews today. And this is set up for an 80s sound, and we don't want that right now. We want the good old-fashioned gold panel British amp. So, the minor to major 3-fret move, the pentatonic scale, etc. Let's talk about what they are, and let's talk about how you probably know them. And then we're going to get a bit deeper into the weeds with this. Now, everything we'll do today is going to be in the key of E for reasons of fretboard visualization. So first of all, let's talk about the E minor pentatonic scale. So the E minor pentatonic scale, we probably know as a box 1 E minor pentatonic, which is this. And that is going to be 15-12, 15-12, 14-12, 14-12, 14-12, 15-12. Now, specifically what it is it's this shape, this big, little big shape around this. 12th fret E. How do we know it's 12 and how do we know it's E? Well, we count up, we get 12. We know that this, on the 12th fret, is the same note as our open string. We have a big bird on this particular guitar. We also have 2 dot markers on the side. The 2 dot markers signify the octave mark. So if we play this string, we play the 12th fret, we get the same note, right? Teaching my granny to suck eggs here to turn a turn of phrase. I don't know if that extends across the pond, but it's definitely a UK phrase. Anyway, if we take our pinky finger, put it on the 12th fret, we get the same thing. Same shape. It gives us major. Now, you can think about this a couple of ways. You can think about you shift the shape down 3 frets to get major, or you can think about index finger on the root is major, pinky finger on the root is minor. Index finger on the root is minor, pinky finger on the root is major. That's my preferred way to think about it, because it gives us some reference to the root. But here is the important bit with this, right? So when we play this E minor pentatonic scale or this E major pentatonic scale, we do so in reference to a landmark. And in this case, the landmark is the root note. Now we know this because if I asked you to play C minor pentatonic scale, having known the E minor pentatonic scale previously, it would be trivially easy for you to go to C, park your first finger, and apply the same shape. Now, this highlights one of the big differences between the way guitar players interact with scale learning in music theory and the way some other musicians who play other instruments interact with this. It's more about the way we think about this stuff. Now, you can conceive of these concepts a variety of different ways and still get to the right answer. There are many roads leading to Rome, and none of them are wrong. It's just a question of which ones are useful at a given point in your personal musical development. Now, example I use for this all the time is if you take a look at whatever street address you happen to be at right now, right? You have your postal address, and you also have the way you get to where you're at. Let's say it's your house, right? So use some coordinates that you could use to direct maybe like, I don't know, a drone to your house. Let's say you were delivering something by drone. You know, Amazon's got that advanced. You could use coordinates to get there. You could use your street address. You could give someone directions. Ultimately, they're all there to lead to the same place. But they're not all useful to the same people. The postman doesn't want to know your coordinates. He wants to know your street address. Right? Your friend who is coming to visit you doesn't want to know your postcode. He wants to know how to get to your house from the bus stop, etc. Right? This is hopefully highlighting the fact that we can get to the same result with different lines of thinking. Now, the way guitar players think about scales in particular is we don't think about the individual notes that go into making the scale for one thing. We think about, and I think this is a slight sidestep from where people actually go with this, we think about a root note and a formula. A root note and a formula, so a recipe for a scale. If we take this root note, this is our C. Let's go back here, right? There's our C root note. We know that if we take this root and we apply this formula to it, we get C minor pentatonic. We also know if we take the root note and park our pinky finger there and apply this formula, we get C major pentatonic. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, hang on, those are shapes. They're not formulas, right? They're shapes. Well, the shape is shorthand for the formula. The shape is an easy way for remembering what goes into making that minor pentatonic scale. And this is a crucial step because when you conceptualize a minor pentatonic scale or you conceptualize a major pentatonic scale, what you're doing is you're taking a root note and a shape, a root note and a series of notes that you have memorized as a single concept. This is a bit like a word, let's say. So let's take a word, let's take the word library, because we're here with licklibrary.com, right? Library. You have memorized the word library as a single concept. It has meaning, it has a sound, and your brain fires it off when you say it, assuming you're an English speaker, as a single concept. We're not firing off individual phonemes because we're not learning the word. We know the word and we know what it means. And when we know a scale, it's the same thing. We know its sound. We know how to form the sound. We have some concept of what it is to have or to be or to, you know, to see a library, let's say. So when somebody says lick library, that has meaning to you. You go, it's a library full of licks, right? Does that make sense? Now we're doing the same with our scales here, and I'm going to introduce you to a way of conceptualizing these that might be useful to you, let's say. And we're going to start with the E minor pentatonic scale once again, but this time we're going to play it in a different form. We're going to play it up a single string, right? So instead of playing this as our E minor pentatonic scale, we're going to play this. Why this? Because here we're separating ourselves from the shape and honing in on the formula. Now, what is the formula in question? Let me give it to you in case you're missing. So here, we're going to begin on the E string. We have E. We jump up to fret 3, fret 5, fret 7, and then fret 10. For the time being, that's all we need to know. I'm going to throw on a backing track that is E minor pentatonic friendly, and we're going to play along together. So let's begin with one of these. We're going to play some of the big hair modes for this one because I've got all my lovely modal backing tracks. Let's do Aeolian. Aeolian is fun. We don't need to know what Aeolian means. We just need to know that minor pentatonic will map to it. We've got some questions coming in. If you have questions, drop them in the comments. I'll get to as many of them as I possibly can over the course of the stream today. But let's begin with just this, right? So once again, oh, that's the wrong set of tracks. It's a fun set of tracks, but that's going to give us B. I don't want the stadium tracks. I want the big hair tracks. So let's go back to that one. Let's go big hair, Aeolian. Here we go. Stadium's in the wrong key. Much better. Okay, so up our E string, we get the following. We get E, 3, 5, 7, 10, and then 12. Now at 12, we're at our double dot line. I'll talk to you about what these mean in a second. But let's play around with these. Let's see if we can play them up and down first, then we'll improvise. So if I go, you take a turn. I want to hear you play this. E, 3, 5, 7, 10, 12. One more time. We're going to go E, 3, 5, 7, 10, 12. You play it one more time, then we're going to improvise over the top. I'm going to throw my big lead sound on because why not? Let's see what stuff we can get out of this. You take a turn. Now you should be able to play something cool and musical with this. Because you can play something cool and musical with the 12th fret shape, you should be able to play something cool and musical with this because it's the same tools, just laid out in a different place, right? So I'll go like this. You take a turn. Weird little note at the end, but that's fine. We'll talk about what's going on there in a second. And again, we're looking for something musical here. Now, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments if this is something that you're able to do. If you can play some musical stuff up this E string using just this shape, and if you already knew this, if you're going, well, this is basic stuff, don't worry, we're going to go somewhere with this, right? But we've got players of all levels here, so we're going to make sure everyone's on board, everyone's on the train, so to speak. So let's see what's going on here. We've got some questions coming in, and I'm going to address a few of these. Here's an interesting one from Sacred Godslayer. It's a trivia fact. Pentatonic only contains whole tone and 1.5 tones intervals, but a 5-note scale with at least one semitone is considered a Hirajoshi family scale. He's onto something here. There are more pentatonics than just the pentatonic scales we're playing here, for sure. Anyway, our friend Brian Dinunzio says, to clarify, is it the same pattern with the pinky root that reveals major, looking at the first position pentatonic? Indeed it is. It's the same sequence of notes. We're going to do something to reveal that in just a second. So who else do we have? Let's see what else we've got going on. We've got some really interesting stuff coming in. I've got some, here we go. That was fun, says Helmet Strap. Pretty easy and fun, says Marcine. We like a bit of that. You're playing in E minor. We are indeed playing in E minor. Now, let's take a look at this particular little sequence of notes we've got going on here, and we'll see what's happening. So we've got, up our E string, we have the following. We have E, 3, 5, 7, sorry, E, 3, 5, 7, 10, 12, but we can give these names, right? We can give these names that aren't just their fret numbers. We're not going to give them their note names, but rather we're going to give them their function names. We'll stay on these two hands cams for now. So let's go E. This we're going to call a flat third. All will become clear soon. This is going to be a fourth. That's going to be a fifth. And a flat 7. So we have E, flat 3, 5, sorry, E, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. We're going back to that backing track for a second, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a challenge to emphasize one of these notes within your improvisation. And I'll change which one it's going to be. I'm going to start by emphasizing the 5. Now remember, we have E, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. These E notes you could change for 1. You can call them 1, we can call them root, we can call them E. It's the only letter name that we actually need to know for this, for what we're playing here, but we do need to know this little formula. Now this formula you can think of as a series of shapes. You can think of it as a 3 fret shape, followed by 2 frets, 2 frets, 3 frets, 2 frets, if you want. Or you can just see it as something resembling this, if that makes sense. Whatever you do to visualize this, that's totally fine, right? We're seeing this scale, and now we're just recognizing the functions of the notes that are in here. So let's begin by emphasizing the 5. I'll throw the backing track on, I'm gonna throw my lead sound on. I'm gonna go like this. You take a turn, emphasizing some 5. Not fret 5, but note 5. In case you're wondering why that's the 4th note and not the 5th one, all will become clear. It's the 7th fret note, that is our 5. Once again, I'm going to play like this. You take a turn. We're going to change our emphasis in a second, and we're going to emphasize the flat 3. That's where we're going to begin. Okay, so I'm going to do my next one. I'm going to improvise one around my flat 3. You take a turn, improvising around this flat 3. Same notes. We're just emphasizing this flat 3 in particular. That's where we want to be. There's our flat 3. Okay, we're coming out of that. So now we've gone a bit further from just having a scale shape. And now we have a scale shape where things have names. They have functions, jobs, if that makes sense. You can imagine these a little bit like a squad of people. Let's say, for example, you're playing a game. You're playing a video game where you've got a team. And your team each has jobs, right? You've got the team leader, and then you have the team mechanic, and then you have the medic, and then you've got the really fast one that goes and scouts things. I don't know, it's been a long time since I've played games. It's been a million years, but you get the gist, right? So what we're dealing with here, we've got some really interesting ones. I like this. Ergohog is, I think I'll dispense with the formalities and call them Elmo, Groucho, Athos, Barry, and Diane. A little bit of that, right? That's really good fun. So I like the fact that Athos is the 4th. We're into that. Now, let's talk about where these functions come from. So these functions are derived from the major scale. We don't need to worry too much about that. But when we learn scales, we always refer to them in reference to the major scale because we have to have a reference to something, right? We have to refer to them based on some general location, and the major scale is sort of our true north in Western music. What is the major scale? It's this. It's that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do scale. So on and so forth. Mal Riley's asking, is the main chord E minor in the progression? In this case, it is. We're going to get to chords probably another time, right? Because it's a big topic, and we're going to just focus on the learning of scales today. Now, here we have some notes that are relative to our major scale. Our major scale contains 7 notes, which is why these have numbers from 1 to 7. But Nick, I hear you say, these weren't numbered 1 to 7. They were numbered 1, 3, 5, and 4. 1, 3, 4, 5, and 7. Where's 2? And where is 6? Well, if only there were huge gaping gaps that we could put 2s and 6s in. Well, let's go looking for them, right? So where might we find a 2? Let's take a look at this. Here's flat 3. right? There's flat 3. Incidentally, if this is flat 3, then this must be 3. That makes sense? We could have flat 3, 3, and 4. All of a sudden, that's starting to make a bit more sense now. Flat 3, 3, 4. So if this is flat 3, and this is 1, well, one of these two is going to have to be 2, right? Right. So we have two options. It could be this one, it could be this one. And it just so happens that this is going to be flat 2, and this is going to be 2. So here we have E, 2, flat 3. This is 4, this is 5, this is flat 7, which means that this is probably going to be 7. That makes sense? Flat 7, 7, back to 1. Why not 8? Well, it is 8. 8 and 1 are the same thing. That's where the term octave comes from. When we get to 8, it's the same as 1. Now, that leaves us this big gaping gap right here that I'm addressing with my middle finger, but I'll address with my tapping hand over there. Not my picking hand, my tapping hand. We have two places right here, this one and this one. If that's 5, and that's flat 7, one of these is going to be 6. Would you like to take a guess? Well, look, this is 6, that is flat 6. So if we take our minor pentatonic scale, and we now include a 2 and a 6, well, now we've got a 7-note scale, and its formula reads 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. You can think about this as minor pentatonic with the addition of 2 and 6. Where are they? Fret 2, fret 9. Let's play that and let's see what comes out. So if you know what scale this is, let me know in the comments, right? Because you guys all know this. We're going to do some peer-to-peer learning here, right? You can let us know in the comments what scale this is. But I'm going to show you. So here's minor pentatonic. I know that this is 5 because I spent ages playing it. I know this is 3. I spent ages playing it. I know this is 4. That's flat 7. Here's 2. I actually need to change backing tracks for this. Put the wrong track on, but it's okay. I've got one next to it. Now here we have a scale that we can call Dorian, and you're going to take a turn playing it. This is the Dorian mode, says Brian Massey. Brian, did those strings arrive? Let me know if those strings arrived at you. We sent them last week. So this particular scale is E Dorian. It's still an E scale because we decided that E is the important note, but now its formula is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. I'm going to take another turn. And on we go. Now, because minor pentatonic was our jumping off point, we've skipped an important step here, which is the major scale. What have we done with major scale? So we've just made a scale that is relative to the major scale, but what is the major scale? Surely we need to know what the major scale is, right? Well, what if we could deduce the major scale from the thing we've just played, right? If we know that every scale and its formula is delivered relative to the major scale, and the Dorian formula is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, well then it makes sense that all we need to do is move the 3 and the 7 up to get a major scale, right? Does that make sense? So we move up the flat 3 to 3, we move up the flat 7 to 7. And what do we get? We get this. We get E, 2, 3, instead of flat 3, 3. 4 and 5 can stay the same, 6 can stay the same, instead of flat 7, we get 7. And there is our major scale. E, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Let's play it again. E, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. What does it sound like? Well, we've got a backing track for this. We're going to shift some of the burden of kind of figuring out the harmony here by just using tracks that tell us what they want played over them. We'll address that in another stream. But for the time being, let's play this against this track. Same rhythms, same instrumentation, different chords. These chords are all derived from the major scale. This is E major, as Citizen is rightly asking. This will be E major. All of our scales are going to be E something, because we're playing off this E note. So we have this formula now that reads E, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. If you're from the UK and you're of a certain age, you'll recognise that as the Rainbow theme tune. Maybe not. Anyway, I'm going to play some stuff over the top of this, right? And I'm going to go like this. You take a turn with this major scale that we've just learned. I'll tell you what it is as we play. E, then fret 2, fret 4, fret 5, fret 7, fret 9, fret 11, 12. Or root 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, root. And that's our major scale. That's the major scale. So everything we play, every scale we play, is going to be some formula related to this major scale. Let's do another one that we've already talked about, which is the major pentatonic scale. The major pentatonic scale is this. Let me tell you the formula, and we'll see if we can figure it out. It's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. What are we missing out? We're missing out a 4. We're missing out a 7. Why are we missing anything out? Well, because pentatonic scales have 5 notes. That's where the name comes from. Pentatonic. 5-note scales. Major scales have 7 notes, so we need to miss some out, right? And we're going to miss out the 4, we're going to miss out the 7. And that gives us this. Check it out. We get E, 2, 3, skip 4, 5, 6, skip 7. Now, the eagle-eyed among you will recognize that this little sequence of 2 frets, 2 frets, 3 frets, 2 frets, 3 frets is very similar to the minor pentatonic. 3 frets, 2 frets, 2 frets, 3 frets, 2 frets, 3 frets. It's the same. It's the same thing, just starting in a different place, which is why our 2 shapes, major pentatonic over here, minor pentatonic over here, can be the same shape but on a different root, and that's where they come from. But crucially, now we've got some reference up a single string. We can see the formula of what it is that we're trying to play. So let's try playing that. There's our major pentatonic. I'm going to play it up a single string, and we'll see where we get to. Lead tone. You take a turn. Major pentatonic. 1, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th. That's all we've got. That is all we've got. That's all we need. Okay, I'm going to go like this. You take a turn. Not enough clearance there. It's supposed to be a Telecaster style guitar, but there's no clearance on the note. Never mind. We'll let them off because the rest of the guitar is delicious. Anyway, that is our major pentatonic. Now, here's the point with this. Here's the crucial point with this. When we are playing these scales, we're thinking about them not as a fingering block, not as a combination of fingers, but rather as a series of intervals relative to a root note. Now that is the crucial distinction here. It's a root note plus some intervals. And we'll get more on that in a second, but I want to highlight this. This is Mal Riley with a great question, saying in the E major shape, the next shape up is F sharp Dorian, right? Sliding it down 2 frets to start on E would be E Dorian. Now, in terms of fingering shape, yes, but this is what confuses a lot of people when it comes to the old modes crack, is this idea that F sharp Dorian is E major starting on note number 2. It is that. But it's not best thought of as that. It's best thought of as its own scale with its own formula. Now you happen to find an E Dorian scale on note 2 of a major scale. There is one there, but that doesn't mean that's what it is. Another example of this is if we play E Dorian, we can have a minor pentatonic scale found from 2. In E Dorian. Now there is one in there, but it doesn't mean that the minor pentatonic is best thought of as coming from the second note of Dorian, if that makes sense. Now I'm being a bit reductionist about this, and I'm being a bit kind of, well, obviously. The reason for this is this line of thinking of start a major scale on X note and play from there is really useful for some instruments. And these are instruments that require a different fingering for scales in different keys, i.e., the move from C major to B major requires an entirely different fingering. So examples of this: piano, saxophone, trumpet, conveniently a lot of the big jazz instruments. And these are instruments that, jazz is where a lot of this has come from. So a lot of this kind of thought process is filtered through the lens of these instruments in particular. But for us as guitar players, it's not a very useful way of thinking. We're best off thinking of root note, an individual root note, and moving out over from there. Now, learn the formula, and then we're on from there. Now, we have another example of this I can give you actually very quickly before we go any further, is singers. This idea of taking E major and starting on the second note and singing up from there, useless to singers. Means nothing to them. Even the concept of E means nothing to a lot of singers. They need to hear a pitch and go, oh yeah, that's root note, and then hear the formula to be able to sing through that scale, if that makes sense, if that makes a lot of sense. So anyway, here's one from Raphael or Hafael. We're going to have to clear this up because I'm going to call you both. But anyway, here we go. It's much easier to know the formula than to start a scale from another note other than the root note. Annie James does it like that, but for me, it's a mind breaker. Agree. Now, there are some occasions where I actually will do it like that, but that's old bad habits, and I certainly never teach it like that. However, Tom Quayle he's another guy who uses, and a lot of the guys who come in Tom's line of thinking, of which there are many, and I count myself one of them. Although I have some disagreements, but not that many, and it's mainly just the fact that I don't play a great deal of fusion and don't play in fourths. But yeah, Tom talks a lot about this, the idea of the root and then intervals out from there. It is very much a consensus among high-level modern guitar players. Anyway, so we've got our scale formula, but what do we do with it now? Now what do we do with it? Because we know it up a single string. What do we do beyond that? Well, what we do is we start to apply our formula to shapes we already know. So examples of this might be if we start looking for interval relationships around a certain root note. Now we've already done that with our minor pentatonic up the E string, but we can go looking for them in other places, right? So let's take a look at how we might find, let's take a really easy one, the flat third. The flat third from a given pitch. Now, let's find some E's first of all. This is where we do need to know note names. We need to know where our root notes are. There's E. Here's another E. How do we know that's E? Well, it's the one we used to tune our E string. Are we in tune? Close enough for shred. Now, we know that the E notes here, we know that the flat third of E is always going to be 3 frets up on the same string. How do we know that? Because it's here. There's E, 3 frets up on the same string. How do we know it's always the same? Well, these frets are always the same distance. Each fret is a semitone. There are no frets that are a tone and a half. It's not like this fret is a semitone and then this fret is a quarter tone and this fret is a fifth. or something like that. We'd be playing microtonal guitars if that were the case, right? But we're not. All the guitars can be microtonal, but that's more up to us. Anyway, so we know that this shape will always be a flat third, right? So if we have this E, that is always going to be a flat third too. Now from here, we could take some other information that we know, such as the location of the 4th and 5th that we found up this string, and take a look at where they are relative to this E and this flat third. Now we know they're on the 5th and 7th fret on the high E string, so now we have a little unit of music, which is this. Now what have we got there? We've got E, flat third, 4th, 5th. That's a convenient little shape that we can use to play minor pentatonic, and we can play that from any E. I'll prove it to you in a second. What if we needed a flat 7 though? Because we haven't played the full pentatonic yet, we need a flat 7. Where are we going to find it? Well, we already know there's one here, so we can play this. Or, we know that this is E, and the flat 7 is 2 frets below that E. So we could take this E and move it down 2 frets to get one here. So what do we got? We've got this. E, flat third, 4th, 5th, flat third. There's our flat 7. Does this give us something useful in E minor pentatonic? Yes, it does. And we're going to play with it now, and we'll see what we get. Let's throw on the Dorian backing track. With the lead tone. Now that's one place we can play this, but where else could we play it? Well, there's an E here on the 7th fret of our A string. We know that because we play A Whole Lot of Love all the time. And there's an E. So what do we do? There's an E. Is the flat third the same distance away? Yes. Is the 4th and 5th in the same place on the next string? Yes. But what do we got now? Another place to find this minor pentatonic scale. Is there an E here? Yes. Do we already play this shape as part of our minor pentatonic? Yes. It's the bottom of the minor pentatonic scale that we already played. Where else do we have E's? Here's an E. 2nd fret on the D string. Here's one. Here's an exception. Here on the G string, fret number 9. That's fine. That's not it. Why is that not it? Well, because the B string's tuned funny. So when we get to a B string, we just move everything up. Now, what have we unlocked here, right? What have we unlocked here? We have what you might consider to be a scale fragment, but it's not really a fragment. It's the whole scale. It's the whole thing. That is every note in the minor pentatonic, but within a single octave. But what we've done is we figured out how we can locate those from any root note. Not by learning shapes, but by understanding the relationships that go into conjuring a minor pentatonic scale, the formula, and understanding where we find those notes orbiting around a single root. Now let's go a little step further with this, right? What if we take this flat third that we just played? Is there another flat third we could play from here? Well, yeah, we can find a relationship based on where this is on the high E string. So we know the flat third on the high E string is here. So in addition to being 3 frets up on the same string, a flat third could be 2 frets back on the next string. Now that's interesting, because now we've got this. what do we have? Root, flat third, fourth, fifth, flat 7, root, flat third, fourth. Why fourth? Well, we know it's there. We played it up that single string. Is that true from our other E's? Yes. Here's an E. Here's an E. What about another E? Here. The middle of our minor pentatonic scale. What about another E? Here's one. The Jimmy Page extension. Well, we knew that one already, but we maybe just didn't know it was this same shape as down here and as down here. Maybe you did, who knows? But either way, we've now got this and this, but we've also connected this. Watch this. That bottom portion of our minor pentatonic, we now know that we have a flat 7 and a root, flat 7 and an E, on the same frets as our 4th and 5th, but on the next string. Is that true here? There's an E. There's a flat 3rd, 4th, 5th, same frets on the next string. Yes, same. What about here? There's an E, flat 3rd, 4th, 5th, same frets. Oh, but it's the B string, so we have to go up 1. Well, there it is. What about here? Root, flat 3rd, B string up 1, 4th, 5th, same frets. Flat 7 root. We've just unlocked the entire fretboard. The whole fretboard playing E minor pentatonic. And that is, it's really simple. Now notice at no point did we say anything to the effect of 5 shapes of the pentatonic scale or memorize these shapes. It's not what we're doing. The shapes are useful and the shapes will come and the shapes will be something that you'll be able to call upon once you've already got a handle on those interval shapes. So if I'm playing something really fast, sometimes I'll go, where am I at? Oh, box 5. But box 5 is not the way to memorize where the notes are in this position. It's just a way to quickly recall them once you've already established how to use them. It's putting the cart before the horse, so to speak, right? So Citizen saying, so is it G major starting from step 6? No. If we were to play these notes in the context of G major, it would be, but it's not. Why is it not? Because we've decided it's the same notes, but it's not the same thing. So let me give you an example, right? Let me give you an example that I often use for this. I'm gonna type something out on the screen, right? And I'll show you why this isn't the case. Check this out, right? Okay, give me one quick second. Okay. Are these words the same word? No, obviously not. Facetious. One word is stone, one word is tones. But are they the same letters? Yes. Do they have different meaning? Yes. That's the important bit. Are they even in the same order, right? Yes. Stone, tones, stone, tones. Yes. If we start one in another place, if we start the word stone on its second letter and count through and then put the S on the end, it becomes, if we start tones on its fifth letter, that's what I'm trying to say. I can't count apparently, but you get the gist of this, right? This is where it is. Different meaning because we start in a different place. So I want you to stop thinking about this idea of these scales being just this scale starting on this note, this scale starting on this note. It's coincidence that they are. In the same way that stone and tones, it is coincidence that they have the same letters. It's a useful, fun bit of trivia, but they're not the same thing. It's not the same thing. So Stone Tones would be a good name for a band, by the way. Maybe a terrible name for a band, who knows? But a good name for a pedal company. Maybe I'm going to start a pedal company one day. I can't solder, so probably not. Anyway, that's the gist. So that's why I want you to stop thinking like that. Instead, it's much better to think about each scale as its own individual thing. So, folks, we're going to take some questions because we've got about 10 minutes before we have to wrap this up. If you have questions, which I'm sure you do, drop them in the comments. We'll make this as clear as we possibly can. Now, I'll rabbit on about this a little bit longer, but get your questions down in the comments because we'd love to hear from you. In case you want some more support on this, by the way, we have courses on this subject. We're going to be doing 3 more streams on this topic, right? 3 more streams on this very topic, but if you want more support right away, you can go to licklibrary.com. You can click the link down below to go to Levi Clay's Guitar Fit, which has got loads of great stuff for learning scales, right? But also, you can go and click my, there's not a link down there, but you can go to licklibrary.com, search my name, Nick Jennison. One of the courses that will come up is Guitar Essentials Fretboard Visualization, which will also help you with all this stuff. And I've also just dropped a course on picking too, if you want to get your picking chops together, also under Guitar Essentials, but this time picking technique. So let's address as many questions as we possibly can. Victor Wooten used stones and tones for sure, right? Troy Grady did the same thing, right? Timothy Appling says your room has changed the last couple of weeks. Different rooms or change? I think Sam Bell was in this room last week. So this is the Lick Library studio. We decided to change it up a little bit because I was sitting in my home studio. It's not actually my house. I rent the studio. It's a studio space that I rent, which is the other room with all the Victory amps behind me. That's my little space where I do the majority of my work. I do all my production and mixing work in there, record some videos from there, stream from there, etc. And I was enjoying being surrounded by amps. And the guys at Lick Library were like, well, we've got amps. Why are we not surrounded by amps too? So we've got loads of amps now, and that's it. But it's the same. Look, this is the blue wall. If you remember the blue wall studio, that used to be the blue wall. So that's it. And Sam's down here too. Our friend Shadrach is saying, is Lick Library a subscription service? It can be. So you can either buy individual products from the store, or you can subscribe and get it all. Truthfully, like, shouldn't have an opinion on this because I think both ways is cool. For me, the subscription's where it's at because you get everything and it's really cheap compared to buying the individual products. If you buy like 2 products, you might as well subscribe, truthfully. Okay, here's a cool one from our friend Brian Bunner. It says, this has been extremely helpful. I spent countless hours trying to learn these scales and it never made sense how to use them across the fretboard. This makes so much more sense to me. Well, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. I think it does to guitar players. Now, the other thing with this is I'll caveat this by saying that this is not some superior way to learn scales. It's only a more useful perspective for guitar players to look at them because of the nature of our instrument and because we're essentially playing a grid where scale fingerings and interval relationships are the same from each individual note. We don't have black keys and white keys, is what I'm trying to say. So for a piano player, this is actually a pretty terrible way to learn this sort of stuff. And for a saxophonist, pretty terrible way to learn this stuff. But us guitar players, this is useful for us. So here's one from, again, from Shadrach saying, what was your course on visualization again? It's Nick Jennison, Guitar Essentials Fretboard Visualization. So Guitar Essentials 1. If you search my name, that's what'll come up. So yeah, hopefully you'll get some fun out of it, man. I think it's a cool course. I really like that. So Mal Riley says, so you say memorize the different scale formulas and use the shapes from those formulas to move them around the neck, move them around the fretboard and play over the neck. Is that the method you use? That is absolutely the method I use. I visualize from the root note, and I visualize the formula that I require from there. So if I happen to be playing E Lydian, let's say, I know that E Lydian contains 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7 from E notes. So I find my E notes, locate where they are, and then I know where my interval relationships are from there. A fringe benefit to this is probably not even fringe, a massive benefit to this really, is not only by memorizing it this way, not only do I know the shape, but I also know how each note is going to sound, because each note sounds a little different, has a different meaning, has a different effect on the listener if we land on, say, the second or the sharp 4, and knowing where they are relative to the E, rather than just knowing the shape and going, well, these notes are legal, I'll just play some of those, which is fine, it's okay, you can do that. But I feel like knowing what each note is before you play it and being able to readily assess its value makes you a more informed improviser, because then you're making choices. You're not just going, well, scale shape says this, so I guess I'll pick that one. You go, well, actually, I want the sharp 4 because it's going to have this sound. And if you want to step outside, let's say, you know which ones to step outside on and where. And also, if you're playing over chord changes, or you want to highlight certain chords, you can just reframe what you're thinking from the root note of the chord that you're trying to play over. So if, for example, you're playing a chord sequence that doesn't belong to a single key, it's no problem. You can just change which root note you're visualizing from, apply the formula, and away you go. It's surprisingly easy once you get a hang of it. Now, again, this is not my method. I didn't come up with this. This is just my way of framing it to you guys. It's my way of communicating it. It's not my method. I didn't invent this, nor did many of the folks who talk about it. I think I've struggled to find somebody who did. But it's one that I found very useful, and a lot of my students have found useful. Do you think like that as you improvise? Yes, I do. Absolutely, I do. Absolutely, I do. RF says, when E-Lydian, I replace root mode B Ionian, so I get the shape and use the tonal center of E. You can do that, but I feel like there's lots of computational steps there. And what you run the risk of getting into is what I call Rosalie syndrome. So Rosalie is a song by Thin Lizzy, right? And it's an example of what happens when you use the shape, but you think about a different scale. So this is what happens when a guitar player learns that F sharp minor pentatonic is the same note as A major pentatonic. So we end up with a chord progression that goes like this. And the solo becomes... a lot of F sharps there. A lot of this sound. Why? Because I would wager that I think it was Brian Robertson played that one. It doesn't sound like a Scott Gorham solo. I'm just thinking back. I think it was Robbo. Great guitar player, right? No slur on Robbo. Robbo was the man. But if you play F sharp, if you play this A major pentatonic, thinking about it as F sharp minor pentatonic, you will phrase on this F sharp. Because your fingers you'll visualize it as that, and no matter how much you try and keep on top of the fact that it's F sharp, your fingers will go places that are not A major in nature. They will go places that are F sharp in nature. It's a bit like this. Let me put it to you like this, right? Here's a thought experiment for you guys. I want you to not think of a pink elephant. Just try really hard not to think of a pink elephant. You've just thought of one. Guarantee, right? It's very hard to not hold this in your head. It's very hard to not hold F sharp minor. Similarly, it's very hard to not hold B major in your head and play as if you're playing B major if you want E-Lydian. That's my argument against it, but you know, hey, you know, it works for a lot of people. Maybe I'm prepared to be wrong on this, right? I'm prepared to be wrong. So here's another one from Citizen 741X. I'm trying to visualize chord tones and switching scales, but it's hard going at the minute. It's much easier when you can visualize scales with these interval functions, because then you know what the chord tones are because they're baked into the scale. So if, for example, we said the chord was E minor 7, well, we know where the root, the flat third, the fifth, and the flat 7 are in this E minor pentatonic, because we've just visualized our minor pentatonic scale as literally that. So this actually helps with that stuff too. It sounds a bit like I'm saying, oh, this is the solution to all your problems. Of course it's not, but it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, yeah, this makes sense when you think about it this way. Raphael says, do the notes on a melody always fit the notes of the chord on the chord progression, or not necessarily? Not necessarily. It depends how... I'm going to coin a term that's probably not a very useful term here, but it depends how follow the chordy you want to be. So following the chords is a sound, right? I use the example of Stevie Ray Vaughan for this all the time, right? Because if we take a blues progression, right, we've got a couple of approaches we can take for this. I'm gonna extend this a little bit longer, even though I have to get to my hotel, which is across London, because we're shooting in central London tomorrow. But even still, I'll throw this blues on in the key of A, right? So I'm gonna put a couple of approaches at this, right? I'm gonna play, I guess, the following the chords approach to this this progression, right? So here we go. Here's A blues. hit all the chord tones, right? Trying to hit all the chord tones, but we don't have to. It's a sound, it's a cool sound, but we can Stevie Ray it. Now, Stevie did hit the chord tones from time to time. I'm not saying Stevie never hit the chord tones. Of course he did. But we can just Stevie it and just play minor pentatonic over the whole thing, and it's going to sound pretty cool. We can just bluster the thing. Not the best Stevie impersonator in the world, but you get the gist, right? Sometimes it can be really fun just to completely ignore the chords and just go, nah, just going to keep the melody static. The melody is going to be one thing and the chords will drift underneath it and do what they will. But similarly, it can be cool to follow the chords too. Lots of great questions today, folks, and unfortunately we are clean out of time, but fear not, as I will remind you, we've got all these courses at licklibrary.com that will help you and support you with this. If you want more information, you know where to go. Go to licklibrary.com, click the link down below to get Levi Clay's course, search my name on Lick Library, Nick Jennison, to find fretboard essentials, and a bunch of other courses that will also help too. If you remember, you'll get all, if you are a member, not if you remember, if you are a member, you'll get all these as part of your membership. Good enough reason to subscribe if you ask me. Also, go to guitarinteractivemagazine.com for all manner of other stuff. I'm going to play out, not on the blues, but I'm going to play out on that first backing track. That was a lot of fun. This is our ballad. You know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to play on some fusion, because why not? This is some moving. Oh, Matt Riley says, how did you learn so much? I was very boring in my 20s. That's what it was. I was boring and skint. I'd committed to a life of professional musiciandom, which is basically destitution, not prostitution, destitution. So I had no money, and I would just sit around and play the guitar all the time, because that's all there was to do. Anyway, I'm going to play over some fusion stuff, and we'll see where we get. This is going to be me visualizing from the root notes A, C, E, and F, wherever they are, visualizing Dorian scales, occasionally melodic minor. My name is Nick Jennison. I'll see you guys next week.